Today I'm going to show you 3 of the best and most important camera angles when it comes to guitar playthroughs. If you're having a difficulty getting your guitar playthroughs to look the professional level that you want them to, a lot of it comes down to lighting and your camera angle. Today I'm going to go over a little bit of both. I'm also going to include one bonus tip to really get your footage to look more cinematic. It's probably not what you think, so stick around to the end if you're interested in getting the most quality out of your footage. I'll leave a link in the description down below for the actual guitar playthrough that we're going to go over today. I'm shooting on the Lumix S9 and some anamorphic lenses, the Blazer anamorphic lenses. If you're looking at getting a camera at all and you're a musician, I highly suggest this one. I'm going to do a video specifically on that. So when I'm filming guitar playthroughs for my rhythms, I really like to get 2 takes of everything, so 2 takes of each of the 3 most important angles. This first angle is the guitar picking angle. You can't really tell what my fretting hand is doing, like you can't tell exactly where my fingers are going. That's why this angle is really good to show off what your picking hand is doing. If you're doing some sort of fingerstyle thing, or if you're doing guitar scrapes, or anything cool with the right hand, this is the angle for that one. So like I was saying, I like to get 2 angles of everything. I'll start with the first one, which is the wide and showing a little bit more, and usually I'll have a focal point. This song, there's a lot of information where I'm tapping around fret 22, so I thought it was important to keep the focus around fret 22. And then I have a secondary angle, very similar, focus still on the picking hand, and I have a different lens. For this angle, I used a 65mm lens, and for this angle, I used a 100mm, and you can tell the compression. Right now I'm just going to show you some behind the scenes about how I lit this whole shot. As you can see, I have the light to the right side of me and the camera on the left, so the light's on the opposite side to give me that shadow over here and that dimension. A cheaper RGB light, and I'm basically just blasting it to get a little bit more light in the room. I have this little Nan light right here, just blasting a little bit of orange just to contrast the blue light here. This light right here, just to make it seem like that's where the lighting me is coming from, but it's actually off screen. And then the last light, as you might notice, is right here. It's a little Aputure 200X, and I also have a little gobo on it to make it look in the background like there's leaves going on. So if I take it out, that's what it looks like. We're just getting a spotlight. But I want a little bit more interest going on, so I gotta defocus it now. And there we go. Leaves. This is everything but my key light, so this is all the ambient light we're getting. And this is without the spotlight. It adds a lot of interest to the background. Put this back on. Here's without the blue light. As you can see, instead of the shadows being completely black, we have a little bit of blue light to it. Adds a lot. And then obviously we have that motivational light there, which looks like that without it. Adding a lot to the shot in my opinion, and now we kind of have a light that we don't know where it's coming from, but at least with the motivational light, we know where it's coming from. Or we think we do. So like I said, you can really see what your picking hand is doing from this angle, but you can't see what your fretting hand is doing. So that's why we get this next angle, which is the fretting hand angle. So now you can actually see which notes I'm fretting on my fret hand here. You can't really see what I'm picking, but that's why we got the first angle. And like I said before, I like to get 2 shots of every angle. So one shot for this one specifically, I'm focusing a lot more on fret 1. Since I'm playing metal, a lot of information is going to be down in that low register. And you can see in the secondary shot, this is where my main focus is. Since a lot of my information on different parts of the riff are beyond the 12th fret, I have roughly from the 12th fret this section in focus, and then the focus falls off here as well as over here. This is really important for me because my ethics with guitar playthroughs is that I want people to be able to learn to play the song just by watching me do a guitar playthrough. And again, using a different lens just allows you to get different amounts of compression and just a different look in general and a different composition. Here's some behind the scenes of how I lit this specific shot. Got the camera there. This time I'm using the 65mm Blazer Remus. And then I have one light just filling in a little bit more exposure over here. You're not really seeing much, it's just doing a little bit. I've got the key light right there. Again, always the camera on the opposite side of your light just to get the shadows and getting all that cool information. I have another light right there just blasting a little bit of blue into the background. When I turn it off, just filling the room a little bit more. We have this Aputure light right here with the spotlight and with the gobo on it just to give us a little bit of that background there. And without it, we have this. With it, we got that. You can see if we dial in the focus a little bit more, it's basically windows. And again, without the key light, this is what our room looks like. I was toying around with using this light just to really get the anamorphic flares going, but it kind of takes you out of this shot. It's kind of cool though. What you'll notice is when you're editing your footage, you'll probably gravitate towards these first two angles a lot, but then you'll be like, I've used these shots way too much. And that's where this angle comes in handy. This is kind of like your safe bet, where if you messed up or if like you're out of focus or you can't see what you're doing on one of the other angles, this one will always have your back. So as we look at it, it's a little bit more boring because we're not getting the same kind of like focus fall off. Like we can see our focus is here and then we're out of focus towards the end of the neck. Same thing here, really honing in where your attention should be. Same thing here, we're focused here, out of focus drastically over here. So this one ends up a little bit flatter because the entire guitar is in the same focal plane. It's basically all in focus, but since it's more boring, you have to do things like making the background more interesting, placing yourself in a different part of your room or just outside or something like that. One way that I found to make it more interesting is to shoot an overhead angle, so looking down. As you'll notice in this angle, I'm in focus completely, the guitar is completely in focus as well. Whereas this angle, my head's out of focus, my body's out of focus, the drums are out of focus, so we really focus on the guitar because that's the only thing that is in focus. This angle is also really important if you want to show what both of your hands are doing, since as we've discussed, if we're going from the picking hand, you can't really see what the fretting hand's doing. If we're doing the fretting hand angle, you can't see what the picking hand or tapping hand's doing. So there's moments in this song where I'm doing like a clean section with tapping, and it was really important for me to get different angles and different compositions just to really show off what I'm doing. So for this one, I've got the 45mm on. I have the light off to the left here just because if it's more on the opposite side of the camera, then it's just going to be a backlight. We have the spotlight right there. As you can see, it's creating this little gobo here, and when I move into it, it's making it look like a window. And then I have this blue light right there, just shining light into the rest of the room. You can see right here, we've got that. And then I have this little light here, mostly to block my electrical plug that's right behind it. I don't know if you can see the wire there. But then I really wanted to show off the anamorphic flare, especially if I turn this one off. You can see that line going across here. And yeah, that's the shot. So now's the point where we have all of the rhythm guitars situated, so we really don't need to do anything else because we have our 6 pieces of footage with the 3 different angles. We've got rhythm guitars covered. Now we go in and we do our leads and our intros and stuff like that. I'm basically following the same steps for the leads. You put your camera on one side and then you put your light on the other side. That way we get a little bit of the shadow. Here you can see our shadows coming from here and onto the guitar there, just making it a little bit more interesting. Otherwise it would be super flat, there would be no shadow, and it would just be like, here's the guitar, and it's not cinematic or interesting. So as I promised, here's the bonus tip, and that's using fog. Honestly, fog, it goes a long way. Let me show you what these shots look like without fog and then with fog. And honestly, I'm using a $10 little machine that I found at a liquidation store. You can really see how it just brings up the exposure in the room, and it kind of just gives it a cinematic feel in general because we're getting a little bit more of that bloom on our light sources and we're getting less contrast. Contrast you can always add in post if you want, but when you're stuck with this, there's only so much you can do. When you're stuck with this, you can get back to that contrast look if you want, but you also have a room that's well exposed. Really gives it its own character and just makes it, I don't know, it glues it. It's like having a glue compressor on your mix. This one makes a huge difference because of that light source being there. Without, and then with. Just look what it's doing to the light source over here. It's an easy, cheap way to just really make your footage look a lot better. So after watching this video and using these tips to your guitar playthrough, if you want to take all of your footage and edit it in the most comprehensive and easy way, check out this video right here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.